Welcome to Beyond Six Figures, the podcast that helps business coaches to micro-niche, get noticed, and become fully booked. Learn from top industry leaders who've successfully taken their businesses and their lives beyond six figures. Get ready to level up your coaching business and make this world a better place, one business at a time. And now, here's your host, Ziv Raviv.
Welcome to Beyond Six Figures. Our guest today is Arden Clise, founder and president of Clise Etiquette. Arden is a sought-after trainer, speaker, coach, and columnist who helps organizations win more business and keep more clients through polished communication, customer service excellence, and modern business etiquette. She's the author of Spinach in Your Boss's Teeth, Essential Etiquette for Professional Success, and has written business etiquette columns for the Puget Sound Business Journal and 425 Business. Her work spans high-impact workshops like networking with ease, digital diplomacy, and customer service excellence, along with one-on-one executive presence coaching, which have brought us to be super curious about her work. Arden, hello, and thank you for taking the time to connect with us. How are you?
I'm well, Ziv. Thank you for having me on your show. Happy to be here.
So, business etiquette is a topic that is quite specific. You chose to solve a very specific problem. You're not telling people, let me teach you how to do social media so that you will get more followers. You're telling them something completely else. And in order to understand the intricacies of etiquettes and etiquettes in business and what you do, I want us to first have an understanding of your journey. What is your origin story? How did you get to become a business etiquette coach?
You don't meet a business etiquette coach on a regular basis, that's for sure. My background's actually in marketing, and years ago, one of my first jobs in a financial institution, a bank that no longer exists, it was a wonderful bank, Washington Mutual Bank. My first job was to give sponsorship money to nonprofit organizations. And in exchange, we would get tables that at their events that I'd have to fill with Washington Mutual employees. And usually the tables were set very formally. I would see people sit down and look at the formal place setting and just feel panicked. Like, oh no, what do I do? Which fork do I use? Whose bread plate is this? And I thought at the time, wow, wouldn't it be nice if I could just teach a few tips to help them better understand and feel more comfortable and relaxed for this kind of situation? And then years later, I ended up coaching the CEO of a different financial institution on business etiquette topics. He kept coming to me for business etiquette. And so it really planted the seed and made me think, okay, I think there's something here to business etiquette. And I worked with a life coach, and after research, it's exactly what I wanted to do. And she helped me kind of push through my fear and my doubt that this could happen, and decided to do it. And as you said, it is a very niche business. So it's turned out to be very beneficial because I don't have a lot of competition. And I would say niching your business is probably the strongest thing you can do to grow your business.
I get goosebumps just listening to you talk about it. So let's talk about the early days of you niching down. You already understood there was this seed that was planted by one of your colleagues or clients, and they came to you again and again for etiquette advice. But there was this moment where the bell rang and you decided to niche down and solve a very specific problem that not everyone needs help with. And you went all in. Okay, it's going to be business etiquette. But what do you do next? Did you do some research? How did you make yourself into an authority in a way that I must say is very authentic? It feels right that you're doing what you're doing. So what was the process to actually build up Arden Clise?
Yes. So after working with the coach, I did quite a bit of research and I spoke to a lot of other business etiquette consultants to see if it was a viable business and to understand the business. That gave me confidence that indeed it was a viable business. And then from there, I got trained. So I went to school to become an etiquette consultant. I went to a school called the Etiquette Institute. And at that time, it was run by a woman in St. Louis, Missouri. And now it's in Spokane, Washington. So that created the foundation of the knowledge I needed to be an etiquette consultant. Even though I had a marketing background, I wasn't quite clear on kind of the business aspects of running a business. So contracting and just kind of the creating curriculum, things around that I didn't have experience with. So then I also worked with another etiquette consultant who really talked about the ins and outs of having an etiquette business. So I learned the etiquette curriculum, the etiquette information from one place. And then I decided to get more of the marketing, the business side of things from another place. And the two really helped.
So you've put in the work. You actually studied. Once you decided this is what you want to do, you used other business etiquette coaches. You've done your reps in learning. How about the actual clientele? At the beginning, it's very hard when you niche down. You don't know if people will actually agree to pay you anything. How did you acquire your first few clients?
Yeah, so having a good website made a big difference. I networked like crazy. I was out there going to all sorts of networking events, meeting people right and left, trying to be helpful to others, letting people know what I offered. And eventually, and also using social media. So getting the word out through my social media platforms. I also did a lot of content creation. So my search engine optimization was really increasing. So slowly, as people Googled etiquette consultants, I was coming up more and more. Now it's at 90% of my clients are coming from Google searches. So content creation is really important. Having that presence online out there definitely gets you going. But it was slow. I will say it was slow. I did not make a lot of money my first couple of years, but I eventually did. And yes, that was mainly just getting out there.
So these days, what's your day-to-day looks like in terms of content creation for SEO? Do you still have your work outlined, like how many blog posts to write or anything of that sort?
You mean kind of my goals?
No, I mean your day-to-day operations when it comes to maintaining your traffic.
Got it. So when I'm doing kind of on the marketing side, yes, I'm fortunate I don't have to do a lot. I probably could do more. But I write a newsletter that I try to get out every 2 weeks. That's not always happening. I do write a blog as well. So that's another piece of content. I'm not doing as much networking as I was. I mean, I was one busy networker back when I was starting out, but I do less and less of that. I also teach public classes. So I do quite a few of children's and teen manners classes. And then I add all of my clients to my newsletter. So my newsletter is pretty robust. It's about 4,000 people. And anytime I can get people into my newsletter, I will. So even inquiries, I will put them in my newsletter, my contact list. So that's really mainly it. I do get word of mouth referrals. But as I said, Google searches are probably the biggest generator of business for me.
Are you concerned about changes in Google's algorithm when it comes to AI now? There's like a lot of changes going on. The AI assistant or companion, it will answer some of the questions for you. And as a result, sometimes the SEO organic results hidden down below. And the algorithm changes quite often. It's a large language model. So we don't really know how the AI chooses to talk about certain things. So you might show up on the AEO, the AI search results, but you might not as well. So, or you might, it might change in a week. So do you sometimes lose some night of sleep over this?
I have not even thought about that. Perhaps I should. I am pretty reliant on a very good web developer, web manager, and she handles all my SEO as well. So I guess I've sort of just assumed that she's taking care of that. But you bring up a very good point that perhaps I should not be so confident that that is being taken care of. I will say I shouldn't say everyone, but more and more people are using AI, or even when you just do a Google search, you're getting an AI summary. And it's interesting, if I Google anything around etiquette, some of the things that come up I can tell they took it from my website. It's so interesting. Like, oh, that sounds really familiar. That is something that I wrote or I said. So it's going to be interesting to see how we proceed. But I think because I have so much content out there, you mentioned that I was a columnist. I'm no longer, but that was another strategy of mine to get my business moving forward, was being a columnist for the Puget Sound Business Journal and then 425 Business Magazine. And that too, having all that content out there. I also did a radio show for a while. So again, I'll just say content is king. So the more you have out there, the more likely you're going to be pulled up on those searches. But maybe I'm deluding myself, and we'll see.
So let's try and geek out a little bit about etiquettes. And what are some of the problems that you see more often in business, where you find it that your clients are asking the same questions, or they are suffering from the same blind spot maybe? So what are some of the mistakes that people do that business etiquette and knowledge about business etiquette could solve?
Yes. Well, gosh, there's a lot of different things. With COVID, getting post-COVID, so many people became very casual, both in how their appearance, their dress, how they're interacting with each other. People are being a little bit more rude. So quite a few of my clients are hiring me just to get their employees back into this like civil, productive, let's be nice to each other sort of mode. I will say probably the biggest issue is around the use of our digital tools. So our email, our phone, our texting, virtual meeting, all of those tools, people are kind of missing some polite behaviors on them. So one tip I will share is when you're communicating. Now, I don't like to communicate with clients via text, because I can't keep track of it. I get so many texts in a day, social texts. And the last thing I want is to have to keep track of a client communication via text. So I don't really offer that as an option. However, I know many people do. And so what I would suggest is these rules to follow. For texting, it should be only to schedule meetings if you're going to use a text. For email, it's anything that you need to have a documentation of, more complicated messaging, anything where you need to go back and refer to it. And then use phone calls when it's an urgent or a complicated message, or tone matters. So we forget sometimes that you can't read tone in an email or a text, and tone is sometimes really important. So those are kind of the rules I would say to follow on your digital tool. I will also say still a lot of people are just picking up their phone and looking at it in front of others, and that's not polite. So the person in front of you has to be your priority, and put that phone away, turn it off. I know when my phone goes off and it's buzzing or ringing, where does my attention go? Even if I don't look at it for a split second, I am focused on that phone. Who's calling? Who's texting? Did I miss, what's going on? And I'm not with my client. I'm not with the person, my colleague. And people notice that. They notice when your attention goes away. So it is really important to put that phone away and off, or the not ringing. So
I want to talk a little bit about your book, Spinach in Your Boss's Teeth, Essential Etiquette for Professional Success.
yes.
Tell us a little bit about like the story of writing this book and who should basically read it.
Who should read it? Well, first of all, let me tell you the journey to it. The journey was hard. I will be honest. What helped me write the book in the end, because what I kept doing was putting on my calendar, book writing. And then every time that darn calendar would come up, I'd be like, oh, but I have to do this and I have to do that and I have to take care of this and I wouldn't do it. So the thing that helped me absolutely the most was having a writing partner. We would meet once a week at a donut shop. We could visit for 5 minutes. That was the rule, 5 minutes. And the rest of the time was devoted to writing. And that made all the difference for me. I will also say, now I am kind of a hybrid published book. So it's kind of sort of self-published, but not really. I used a publisher that handled a lot of it. But I will say, if you write a book and if you self-publish, make sure you get a really good editor, copy editor, and proofreader. Those are vital. I'm a good writer, and so thankfully there wasn't a ton of changes, but definitely the things that were suggested were really helpful. It is a process, and a lot of the book is marketing. So they say, I don't know if you've heard this, but they say that the hard part is not the writing, although I thought that was incredibly hard, not because it was hard writing, it was hard finding the time. But then the big meat of it is marketing your book. So I talk about it whenever I speak. I get my clients to purchase the book. It's on my newsletter. I write about it in my blog. I'll say we refer to my book in my blog posts. So getting it out there is really important.
And your book is on Amazon, and it's been a while now, almost 9 years since it was published or so. What would you, if you were going to update it, what would you focus on these days?
That's a really great question. I have thought about it because, in 9 years, a lot has changed. And something that comes to mind is professional attire. So I do talk about that in the book, but it was based on mostly business and business casual attire. And so much has changed with that. So few people wear business attire, suits and ties and suits and nice blouses for women. Even business casual has changed. So I would definitely change that section. And some of the things that just aren't as relevant today, trying to think what else. I mean, there are still very, very relevant things in the book because there's a lot of etiquette essentials that don't change. But I think in the book, there's conference calls etiquette. And, how many people are doing conference calls any longer? You really didn't have much virtual meetings at that time. So probably add that in, just etiquette around virtual meetings.
How about AI? Because
yes, definitely. Yes, good point, for sure.
Because people sometimes they kind of use AI for decision making. They use AI for everything. Sometimes you can actually tell that they didn't really read anything. They just replied with AI. You can spot those M dashes. So it could lead to all sorts of situations.
It's a very good point, Ziv. Yes, indeed. There is a lot of etiquette that could be written around AI, the use of AI and when it's appropriate and when you state that you've used AI. I think sometimes it's really important to say this was written by AI. I'll tell you a funny story. My sister this was really early on when ChatGPT had just started. She wanted to write a love note to her husband. And she used ChatGPT. And of course, it was this very beautiful note and very unusual, very not like her at all. And her husband, he didn't know if it was AI or not. He just was like, what is this? So he was like, okay, probably shouldn't do that again.
Well, AI etiquette can affect your life. It can affect your business. So it's a very interesting topic. Maybe by the time our listeners are listening to this, you already will have a blog post or something with some ideas about that.
I probably should. Yes. There's a lot of opportunity there.
Yeah. So Arden Clise, you run a business where people find you, they listen to you, they read your book, they learn about your ideas, and they become aware that they can work with you. Is there something that you feel like these days that is working well for you as a business owner to kind of manage all of this marketing and content creation and whatnot? What do you feel right now, after years of doing this, is actually working for you?
Mm-hmm. Well, I definitely would say my newsletter is hugely useful. It's interesting because I'll send a newsletter out and sometimes I'll get email, particularly with the public classes I offer, mostly for kids, but they're also for adults, the ones that I'm hosting versus where a client hires me and has me come in. I usually will see bookings right after a newsletter goes out. But then with my corporate clients, usually there's a lag and it'll take a while before I hear from them, but I will. So my newsletter is pretty powerful. The other thing, and I forgot to mention this, but the other thing that also has really helped bring in clients is speaking. So at chambers, at Rotaries, and I'll do it for free because it's great marketing. Because so often when people think of etiquette, they think stuffy, they think this doesn't apply to me, this is too formal. And they hear me speak and they see I have a sense of humor and it's relatable, it's useful. And then they'll be like, oh, yeah, this is something that we could benefit from. So that is something I still try to do. I would say those are the biggest things, really, as my newsletter and my blog post, and then speaking, doing public speaking.
How often do you write for your newsletter?
I try to write a newsletter, get a newsletter out every 2 weeks. Not always possible. Sometimes it's once a month, but I do try to keep a good frequency with it. And the other thing that I think keeps it getting opened, I have a very, very high open rate, is I share bulleted etiquette tips. So it's short and sweet, and people like that because it's easy to read and it's useful. So I really try to keep it useful and short. And that, I believe, really has increased the open rate.
What is something that excites you these days that you're looking towards that will be the next step in the evolution of your business?
Well, I'm actually moving to a different place. I'm moving to a city or town, I should say, 2 hours away from me. And so I'm going to be I will still be offering my services I live in Seattle, in the greater Seattle area and beyond. I get clients in other parts of the country, but it'll be interesting kind of developing my business up there for a little while. I'll be there for 6 months and then I'm coming back. But yeah, that's, I think, going to be a unique challenge to get my name out there and see if I can start kind of being a beginner again and marketing my business to a new area. So yeah, I think that's going to be exciting.
Awesome. And I think that just the fact that you have a baseline already of 4,000 people on your email list and your SEO that is working well for you. So you still will have like the online clientele.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's wonderful. So Arden Clise, where can people go and learn more about your work?
Absolutely. They can find me on my website at cliseetiquette.com. You'll find my blog post on there as well. My book is on Amazon, Spinach in Your Boss's Teeth. Yes, reach out to me. I'd love to chat with you and answer any questions.
We're going to put the book link and the website and the social media accounts all on the show notes of this episode. You can go ahead and check it out. And I want to thank you for taking the time to connect with us, to talk about your book, and to raise the importance of niching down and finding your place and putting in the work to become an authority in your place, just like you did, Arden Clise, in the business etiquette realm. So thank you for being here, and thank you everyone for listening to another episode of Beyond Six Figures.
Thanks for listening to Beyond Six Figures. Check out the extended show notes that include bonus material, practical tips, and exclusive resources on our website, zivraviv.com. Until next time, keep dreaming big and pushing your business and your life beyond six figures.